Denver's plan to end homelessness relies on moving people into permanent housing quickly. The longer that people live indefinitely inside hotel shelters, the more expensive and unproductive it is for everyone. Now Denver's funding programs to try and avoid shelters altogether. The city of Denver is pouring $10 million this week into stopping people who are homeless from staying at hotel shelters like this one endlessly. Recently, when people arrive, it's gotten harder for them to exit into permanent housing. Nearly $7 million was approved last night for rapid resolution services aimed at stopping people from falling into homelessness. Another $4.6 million will be requested today for rapid rehousing, working to get people out of shelters. Together, the money aims to bend this curve. This graph shows the rate of people exiting hotel shelters into permanent housing decreasing recently. When people get into shelters, they're staying longer. That costs taxpayers more money. The mayor puts the blame on cuts to state and federal housing vouchers coming into the city of Denver.
If those vouchers go away, now the exits for people to leave our shelters and go into permanent housing are blocked. That means those folks get stuck in those transitional shelters for longer and longer. That means people that are on the streets trying to get into those transitional housing sites don't have spots come open.
Denver has already lost 180 housing vouchers so far this year and will likely miss its goal of housing 2,000 people by the end of December.
Almost 200 people who would have been able to get into permanent housing that won't be able to this year because of that. So we are very worried about that.
The $11 million approved or requested this week will go towards trying to prevent homelessness altogether or getting people who moved into these shelters out of them and into permanent housing more quickly. It'll provide services like rental assistance to keep someone off the streets completely and contracts with landlords to try and take in people exiting shelters. The mayor says the system is flawed. People get into shelters like this, but they can't always get out quickly. We'll see if this money helps the system move again. Exits to permanent and stable housing continue to outpace exits from shelters back to the streets. However, the longer that people stay in any type of shelter, the more expensive it is to house them. So speaking of Denver City Council, they just approved another round of raises for Denver police officers, only weeks after the city eliminated hundreds of jobs. 3 weeks ago, Denver laid off 171 people and got rid of more than 600 vacant positions in an effort to fix a $250 million budget shortfall over the next 2 years. Now DPD officers are getting a raise, 16% over 3 years. Only 4 city council members voted against the proposal, which came after a pretty contentious back and forth.
I would like to see it go elsewhere. I mean, we're in a budget crisis, self-inflicted, but we have to be grown-ups and figure out how to solve that budget crisis.
Multiple council members said the timing isn't ideal, but that public safety funding has to stay a priority. Denver Mayor Mike Johnston advocated for the raises. We spoke with him today on where that money is now coming from.
Release the budget this week, you'll see that the police department chose other places to reduce expenditures in order to create the capacity to incentivize keeping officers here. And so that's not a cost that we'll pass on to other departments or other parts of the city.
Johnston will announce the full 2026 budget later this month. It's important to note that Denver's public safety department, which includes police, fire, and sheriff, were some of the only departments to not have any layoffs last month, though some empty positions were eliminated in those departments. The Denver Broncos are moving forward with new plans to build a new stadium about a mile away from their current home at Mile High. Today, the team announced that Burnham Yards is their preferred site to build a new retractable roof stadium by 2031. The Broncos say there's still a long way to go before they actually break ground on that old rail site near I-25 and 6th Avenue. They're planning a stadium surrounded by mixed-use entertainment districts, and the ownership group says they have a, quote, conceptual agreement to purchase about 100 acres of that land from the state as well as Denver Water, as well as private owners around that site. The Broncos say they aren't seeking any public funding to build the stadium, but Mayor Mike Johnston says that the city will pitch in for infrastructure improvements that are needed. In return, Johnston says the deal will keep the Broncos in town for another 50 years, and it opens up the current Mile High site for redevelopment. There are already publicly funded infrastructure improvements in the works near Burnham Yard. 15% of the bond project that voters will see on the ballot this fall includes money to fix 6th Avenue, as well as the 8th Avenue viaduct that leads into Burnham Yard. Johnston says the city's been looking at making those improvements for years. Federal agents will now be allowed to stop people that they believe are immigrants without documents based on things like skin, color, job type, languages that they speak, or other factors. Critics say that this is racial profiling that has been inexcusable under law for forever until now. Here's Angeline McCall.
A ruling that felt hard for so many to believe, including Andrea Loya.
I mean, you have to really understand that we have really gone back in time.
She runs nonprofit Casa de Paz and learned this week the Supreme Court is lifting restrictions that kept ICE agents from questioning people about their immigration status based solely on their skin color, language spoken, or job type.
Honestly, it's as a person who identifies with both of those, both an immigrant, a person of color, and somebody who speaks Spanish and proudly speaks that at home. It's devastating.
It stems from the large-scale raids and sweeps happening this summer in California. The Supreme Court issued a decision that, at least temporarily, does not require agents to stop people with probable cause, only with the lesser reasonable suspicion.
We speak Spanish at home, and Spanish is my daughter's first language. My daughter's an American citizen, but Spanish is her first chosen language. And so yesterday when I heard about that, as a mom, I think it also hit different because it just made me question if I was choosing the right things for my kid, which is just a language.
Andrea's conversations with other advocates across the country in places like Chicago say the ruling makes people want to remain out of the public as much as possible.
Essentially, go back to COVID times, stock up, and be saving food so that they can keep their community safe and that their communities don't have to see the streets.
The decision comes following an injunction. The Supreme Court overruled a federal judge in a lower court, and this will continue to be litigated, Mark.
Yeah, obviously we've seen the federal government and President Trump send in a lot of federal forces into places like Los Angeles and Chicago. We haven't seen that here in Denver yet.
Yeah, the temperature is not there, but of course this ruling does concern people. And what if there is kind of a temperature change, right? Or a policy change in Denver, then that would be a real concern.
We'll see what happens. Angeline McCall, appreciate it. Thank you. The worst kept secret in Colorado politics is now public. Republican State Senator Barb Kirkmeyer is running for governor. A long shot, given that Republicans lost that race in 2022 by nearly 20 points. And Kirkmeyer first has to get through a Republican primary full of more far-right opponents. Kirkmeyer, told Kyle that she considers herself a supporter of President Trump, but not part of the MAGA movement.
There's a lot of work to do. Our state has been, unaffordable. It's unsafe, it's unraveling in areas, and I think we need to get back on track. I'm a person who can work across the aisle to actually get things done, and I'm here for what's in the best interest of Colorado.
You're saying that you've proudly worked with Democrats. In fact, I have it on pretty good authority from folks on the far right of your party that you're a rhino, right? That you're,
I am
that you're a
the
squish,
rhinos.
you know? Here, I'm going to read you the quote. A coward who bows down to radical Democrats. That was from the Colorado Republican Party last year. Now, there's new folks in charge of the Colorado Republican Party this year.
Thank goodness. If you go back and you look at my record, I do have a conservative record. I believe in limited government. I support and back up Tabor. I believe in individual responsibility and people. Government should only do those things for people that they can't do for themselves.
Why do you think that voters have banished your party from statewide office in Colorado?
Wow, I think we took things for granted. I think we took the voters for granted. I think our messaging was bad. I think we went after each other. And we came up with things that just weren't that good and didn't resonate with the public. And I think that's our fault.
Last question. I know this is a topic that you love. I've asked you about this before. I think it's interesting. So in 2013, you helped lead that secession effort to have Northern Colorado break away and form a 51st state. And you're announcing your campaign at Fort Lupton, which was the campaign night headquarters for that effort in 2013.
That's right, it was. It was.
So I guess here's my question. You've said that you saw that effort as a success because it was intended to send a message as opposed to actually break away and form a new state. But why should Coloradans elect a governor who tried to lead a breakaway state?
Sure. And I actually didn't try to lead a breakaway state. I went out and talked, and by the way, it wasn't just me who said that. It was then Governor Hickenlooper who said that it was good and it was successful and it was good for our state, because then he started paying more attention to rural Colorado. But what I was leading is what I was hearing from my constituents, and I would do this again. They came to us, we had 7 regional meetings, and they said, yeah, we think you should put it on the ballot. We want to figure out, is there a way for us to succeed from this state and create our own state because of this rural-urban divide that was going on? And it was very real. And people did vote, and they said no. And then we stopped. They said, no, we don't want to succeed as a county. We do not want to succeed. And so we stopped. So we listened to our voters all the way through.
In Kyle's full 30-minute conversation with State Senator Kirkmeyer, they talked about her opposition to how Democrats chose to balance the budget and her plan to cap low-income families' tax credits in order to do it. That's on 9news.com and the Net's YouTube channel. Months after a failed merger, Safeway is shuttering a bunch of stores in Colorado. And through the lens of our friend Corki Schaw, the ordinary became extraordinary.
Snowboarding like right downtown in the city, you know, which is a rad thing on the glacier.
We'll remember the man behind the camera for some of our favorite stories. Next. Depending where you live, you might need to rethink where you get your groceries. Safeway announced today it's closing 10 stores in Colorado in the next 2 months. Safeway said it didn't make the decision lightly. The closure was announced after the grocery giant merged its Intermountain and Denver divisions. In a Facebook post, the mayor of Lamar, where one store is closing, said that he was told the decision came down to lower sales, higher expenses from this year's strike, and the failure of the company's sale to Kroger. Among the closings are 2 stores in Colorado Springs, one in Denver, another one in Aurora, and 1 store in Englewood. Safeway said the stores will close on or before November 7th. Turning to the weather now with Chris Bianchi. One of the biggest perks of working here is that I can text Chris about personal weather questions like, hey, Chris, will my flight be delayed? And honestly, your answer is always the same if I'm flying out of Denver in the afternoon in the summer. Don't do it. And today we got a reminder of why you don't fly out of Denver in the afternoon in the summer.
You know, Mark, I appreciate that, but I don't appreciate the 3 a.m. text that you send me when you have a 6 a.m. flight.
Listen, I need answers.
Oh, my goodness. No. Of course you don't do that all the time, but we'll leave that off air. Meantime, 51-mile-an-hour wind gusts. If you want to know why it's a disaster at the airport or why it has been that way this afternoon, I always tell you this. If you can avoid a flight between 3 and 6 p.m. during the afternoon hours in Denver, do it, because a 51-mile-an-hour wind gust, 3:20 p.m., led to a ground stop for an hour. Still severe thunderstorm watch across the eastern plains, up to tennis ball-sized hail, and seeing some gusty storms out across the eastern plains. A few severe thunderstorm warnings for hail and wind in Denver. Things are quiet right now. Could still see a gusty shower later on this evening, but for the most part, things are going to stay pretty quiet over the next few days. Storm odds will increase for Friday and Saturday, and then we briefly drop back into the upper 70s for us on Saturday, but overall, more summer-like weather as we head over the next few days.
When we return, we'll remember a colleague we lost by replaying some of his favorite stories. At that time, a forgotten mound of snow became the Denver Glacier. Next. We see a lot of interesting things doing this job. It's easy to take the sights and sounds and people that we meet for granted. An old house with mid-century architecture, a neon sign that's half burnt out, an old restaurant on Colfax that's about to be torn down. 9 News photojournalist Corki Schaw taught me to stop and look around. When we were shooting stories out together, we stopped at all those places I'd normally drive right by, pausing for a second to talk to people and perhaps learn something new. Everything was interesting to Corki, and he found a way to make all of us care about the stories that perhaps we'd never even thought of. Corki passed away last week. We're devastated here at 9 News. I'm devastated I'll never get to do another story with one of the kindest, most talented people that I've ever had the privilege of working with. But his work lives on. Each day this week, we'll share one of Corki's stories here on Next. He had a gift for finding the beauty in everything, even a dirty pile of snow left under a bridge. Again, all you have to do is stop and look around. Tonight, we're going back to 2010 when Corki and Kyle brought us the story of the Denver Glacier.
Quite a little snowstorm we have here.
Colorado loves snow when it falls where we want it.
I think it's nice, one last snow for the year, you know, everyone gets to go skiing and everything.
When it falls where we don't,
It's like an avalanche off the top of my car.
we scoop it and scrape it,
I didn't expect this much.
shove it aside, pile it somewhere to melt, out of sight, out of mind.
It's like a nice little spot. It's away from everything. What's up, dude? Good to see you. You guys bring some shovels?
In downtown Denver, there's a snow rescue team of sorts.
It's sweet. There's no other snow anywhere around.
Not rescuing people from the snow,
Cool.
but the other way around.
It's kind of cool. It's like our little oasis right downtown, you know?
A final pile that's won a game of hide and seek with the sun.
They oftentimes dump so much snow down here that it's almost tough to dig it all out.
The snowboarders who are building ramps under this overpass have given this place a name.
We call it the Denver Glacier. As you can tell, the snow looks pretty much like a glacier. It's dirty, it's got a lot of rocks, got a lot of dirt, got some broken bottles here and there, but this is our little fun zone.
No one will mistake this for a resort in the mountains.
It's dope, man.
A different altitude, a different attitude.
It's like, what, 50, 60 degrees today, but we're gonna be snowboarding like right downtown in the city, you know, which is a rad thing on the glacier. All right, should we do this? 3, 2, 1. Whoa!
Yeah. The bungee's like the greatest invention that snowboarding's seen in quite a while, I think. Totally changed like what you can do on a snowboard.
You just pull that handle back, attach it real good. You pull that thing back and you're all, woo! Oh!
Snowboarders are gonna make it happen no matter what, so.
Most of the people passing by this spot don't appear to see. Only the brightest seem to notice.
Little daily art project we get to have fun on. You know, we're fun activists out here. We're also life enthusiasts.
Pat Milbury, Mark Moline, and their friends want to prove that you don't need to get into a competition or a lift line to ride.
Oh! If you want to win that like gold medal in the Olympics, cool. We have nothing, you know, we don't have anything against that. That's all good, but there's so much other stuff you can do.
There's something to be said for having fun with what you have.
A little muddy, dirty, but we're making the best of it.
Whether it all falls in place or ends up somewhere unexpected.
Off track.
With photojournalist Corki Schaw. This is Kyle Clark, 9 News.
Oh!
Your feedback tonight on all the Corki stories that we've been running this week. Shirley says, I could always tell when a story was a Corki Schaw story. Incredible camera work, in-depth reporting, and sensitive storytelling. Chad says, thanks for showing Corki's stories again. Just on a personal note, it's been awesome to work with him. And Corki, we'll miss you, man. See you next time.